Have you ever walked down a school hallway late at night when the lights are off and every sound echoes just a little too loud? Have you ever felt like someone was watching you, even though you knew you were alone? What if I told you that some schools hide secrets so dark, so twisted, that even the bravest students refuse to talk about them? Tonight, I'm going to share 3 true creepy school stories that still haunt me to this day. These aren't just rumors or urban legends. These are real experiences. Stories that will make you question every shadow in your classroom, every echo in the hallway, and every face you pass by. So, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and get ready. Because after tonight, you'll never look at your school the same way again. I went to a small high school in upstate New York. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and nothing ever really happened. Or at least, that's what I thought. My story starts in sophomore year, when I was assigned a locker at the very end of the oldest hallway in the building. The hallway itself always felt colder than the rest of the school, and the lights above my locker would flicker, even when the rest of the building was bright and warm. The floor tiles were cracked, and the paint on the walls was peeling, like the school had just given up on that part of the building. The locker looked normal, but from the first day, I noticed something strange. No matter how tightly I closed it, no matter how many times I spun the lock, it would always be open the next morning. At first, I thought it was just a broken latch. I told the janitor, and he came to check it out. He fiddled with the lock, shrugged, and said it was fine. But the next day, it was open again. I started to get annoyed, thinking maybe someone was messing with me. I even tried switching the lock with a friend, but it didn't matter. Every morning, the locker would be open, just a crack, like someone or something had been inside. I started to get paranoid. I'd check it 3, 4, even 5 times before leaving school, making sure it was locked. But it didn't matter. The next day, it would be open again. Then, things started showing up inside. At first, it was just old, yellowed notes. The paper was thin and brittle, and the writing was shaky, almost like it had been written by someone with trembling hands. The first note just said, "Don't forget me." I thought it was a prank, but then I found a single, rusty key. It was small, like it belonged to a diary or jewelry box, and it was ice cold to the touch. I had no idea where it came from. A few days later, I found a photograph of a girl I'd never seen before. Her face scratched out with red ink. The ink was still wet, like someone had just done it. The notes kept coming. One said, "I'm still here." Another said, "Please help." I asked my friends if they were messing with me, but they all swore they had nothing to do with it. Some of them even started avoiding me, like they were scared to be around that locker. One night, I stayed late for a school project. The halls were empty, the lights flickered, and the air felt heavy, almost like it was pressing down on me. As I walked past my locker, I heard a soft tapping from inside. My heart pounded. I reached out, hands shaking, and opened the door. Nothing. Just darkness. But as I turned to leave, I heard a whisper. So faint, I almost thought I imagined it. "Help me." The voice was desperate, almost pleading. I ran out of there and never used that locker again. A few weeks later, I found out that a girl had gone missing from our school years before. Her locker? The same one I'd been assigned. No one ever found her. But sometimes, late at night, students say they hear tapping from that end of the hallway. And if you listen closely, you might just hear her whisper, begging for help. But that's not where the story ends. After I stopped using the locker, I started noticing other strange things. My textbooks would go missing from my backpack, only to turn up inside the locker the next day. Once, I found my own notebook in there, but every page had been torn out except for one. On that page, someone had drawn a picture of the hallway, with a shadowy figure standing at the end. The figure had no face, just a blank space where the eyes and mouth should be. I started having nightmares about the locker. In my dreams, I would be walking down the hallway, and the locker would be open, just a crack. I'd hear the tapping, louder and louder, until it sounded like someone was pounding on the metal from the inside. I'd try to run, but my feet would feel like they were stuck in cement. The last thing I'd see before I woke up was a pale hand reaching out from the darkness inside the locker, grabbing my arm and pulling me in. I tried to tell my parents, but they just thought I was stressed about school. My friends stopped believing me after a while, and I started to feel like I was losing my mind. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. And I know that whatever is in that locker is still there, waiting for someone else to find it. The school eventually replaced all the lockers in that hallway. But I heard from a friend who still goes there that the new lockers in that spot never seem to work right. The locks jam, the doors get stuck, and sometimes students say they hear tapping from inside. No one wants to use those lockers anymore. And every year, on the anniversary of the girl's disappearance, someone finds a note inside one of them. The notes always say the same thing: I'm still here. And sometimes, when I walk past that hallway, even now, I swear I can feel someone watching me from the shadows. I keep my eyes straight ahead, but wonder, what would happen if I opened that locker one more time? Would I find another note? Or would I finally see the face of the girl who never left? Every school has that one place you're not supposed to go. For us, it was the basement. The janitor always kept it locked, and if you even tried to go near it, he'd appear out of nowhere, eyes wide, voice shaking, telling you to stay away. He never explained why, just that it was for our own good. Of course, that just made us more curious. The forbidden always does. The basement was under the oldest part of the school, a section with creaky floors and windows that rattled in the wind. No one really knew what was down there. Some people said it was just storage for old desks and chairs. Others said it was where the school kept all the stuff they didn't want anyone to see. There were rumors about weird noises coming from the basement at night. Scraping, banging, sometimes even voices. But no one ever saw anything, and the janitor never talked about it. He'd just shake his head and walk away if anyone asked. One Friday night, my friends and I decided to sneak in. We'd been talking about it for weeks, daring each other, but always chickening out at the last minute. This time, we were determined. We waited until the janitor left, then picked the lock with a hairpin. The door creaked open, and a wave of cold, damp air hit us. The only light came from our phones, casting long, shaky shadows on the walls. The basement was filled with old desks, broken chairs, and boxes stacked to the ceiling. The floor was covered in dust, and every step we took echoed through the darkness. It smelled like mold and something else. Something metallic, almost like blood. We wandered around for a while, joking and laughing, trying to scare each other. But the deeper we went, the quieter we got. The air felt heavier, and it was hard to breathe. We found old yearbooks, stacks of forgotten textbooks, and even a broken trophy case. But then we found something we weren't supposed to see. A door covered in strange symbols, with a heavy chain wrapped around it. The symbols looked like they'd been scratched into the wood with a knife, and the chain was so thick it looked like it belonged on a prison cell. The door was different from the others. Older, darker, almost like it was absorbing the light from our phones. We should have left, but we didn't. Curiosity got the better of us. We pried the chain loose and opened the door. Inside was a small room, empty except for a single chair facing the wall. The walls were covered in scratches, and someone had carved words over and over. "Don't look behind you." The message was everywhere, overlapping, desperate. My friend laughed, trying to break the tension. But then we heard footsteps behind us. Slow, heavy, dragging footsteps. We spun around, but no one was there. The footsteps got louder, closer, until they stopped right behind us. Suddenly, the door slammed shut. We screamed, pounding on the door, begging to be let out. The air grew colder, and it felt like something was watching us from the shadows. My heart was racing so fast, I thought I might pass out. After what felt like hours, the janitor found us. He was furious, but his hands were shaking. He told us never to come back, that some doors should stay closed. He wouldn't look us in the eye, and he kept glancing over his shoulder like he was afraid something might follow him out. We never talked about what happened down there. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I still hear those footsteps. And I wonder what would have happened if we'd looked behind us. Would we have seen something we couldn't forget? Or would we have never made it out at all? But there's more to this story. After that night, things started happening to all of us. My friend who laughed at the writing on the wall started having nightmares. He said he'd wake up in the middle of the night and see a shadow standing at the foot of his bed. Another friend started hearing footsteps behind him whenever he walked home from school. Even though no one was there, I started seeing things out of the corner of my eye. Shapes moving in the shadows, faces in the windows that disappeared when I looked straight at them. Sometimes I'd hear whispering when I was alone, words I couldn't quite make out. We tried to forget about the basement, but it was like something had followed us out. The janitor quit a few weeks later. No one ever saw him again. The school boarded up the basement, but sometimes, late at night, you can still hear noises coming from down there. Scraping, banging, and sometimes, if you listen closely, footsteps. Some kids say they've seen a shadow moving behind the boarded up windows, or a pale face staring out for just a second before vanishing. I don't know what was behind that door, and I don't want to know. But I do know that some places are better left alone, and some doors should never be opened. If you ever find yourself in an old school basement and you see a door covered in strange symbols, do yourself a favor, turn around, and don't look back. Because sometimes, curiosity doesn't just kill the cat. Sometimes it follows you home. This last story is the one that haunts me the most. Even now, years later, I still get chills thinking about it. It happened during my senior year, in the girls' bathroom on the 3rd floor of my high school. The 3rd floor was always a little creepy. The lights were dimmer, the air felt colder, and the whole place just seemed off. There was a rumor that if you looked into the mirror at midnight and said, "I see you," 3 times, you'd see the ghost of a girl who died there years ago. Some people said she'd been bullied. Others said it was an accident. But everyone agreed her spirit never left. Most people thought it was just a stupid dare. Kids would talk about it at lunch, daring each other to try it, but no one ever actually did. Or at least, that's what I thought. But one night, my friend Emily decided she wanted to prove it was all fake. She was always the brave one, the one who laughed at scary stories and rolled her eyes at ghost tales. She dragged me along, even though I begged her not to. I remember the way her eyes sparkled with excitement, not fear, as we snuck into the school after hours. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might burst out of my chest. The school was completely silent. Every sound, our footsteps, the creak of the doors, even our breathing, echoed off the tile walls. The hallways felt endless, stretching out in front of us like a maze. We made our way up the stairs, each step creaking under our weight. When we finally reached the third floor, it was even colder than I remembered. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, as if it had been waiting for us. Emily pushed the door open, and we stepped inside. The moonlight coming through the high window cast strange shadows on the walls. The mirrors above the sinks were old, the glass warped and spotted. Emily stood in front of the largest one, her face pale in the moonlight. She looked at me and grinned, but I could see a flicker of nerves in her eyes. She took a deep breath and said the words, "I see you. I see you. I see you." For a moment, nothing happened. I let out a shaky laugh, feeling silly for being so scared. But then, the lights flickered. The air grew icy cold, and I could see my breath in front of me. In the mirror, I saw a face that wasn't ours. A girl, her eyes black as coal, her mouth twisted in a silent scream. Her hair hung in wet, tangled strands, and her skin was so pale it almost glowed. Emily screamed and bolted for the door, but I couldn't move. It was like my feet were glued to the floor. The girl in the mirror reached out, her hand pressing against the glass. I felt a cold, clammy hand on my shoulder, and suddenly I could move again. I ran after Emily, and we didn't stop until we were outside, gasping for air. We never spoke of it again, but I could tell it haunted her as much as it haunted me. But sometimes, late at night, I see her face in every mirror, watching, waiting. And I wonder if she's still trapped there, or if she followed us out. I started avoiding mirrors, but it didn't help. Sometimes, I'd catch a glimpse of her in a window, or in the reflection of my phone screen. Always watching, always waiting. But the story doesn't end there. After that night, Emily changed. She stopped coming to school, stopped answering my texts. When I finally saw her again, she looked different. Pale, tired, like she hadn't slept in days. She told me she kept seeing the girl in the mirror, no matter where she went. In the bathroom at home, in the windows of passing cars, even in her phone screen, the girl was always there, watching her, getting closer every time. Emily became obsessed with finding out who the girl was. She spent hours in the library, digging through old yearbooks and newspaper clippings. She found out that a girl named Sarah had died in that bathroom decades ago. The story was vague. Some said it was suicide. Others whispered about foul play. But the details didn't matter. Emily was convinced the ghost wanted something from her. One night, Emily called me, crying. She said the girl was in her room, standing at the foot of her bed. She said she could feel her cold breath on her face, hear her whispering her name. I tried to calm her down, but the call ended suddenly. I never saw Emily again after that night. Her parents said she ran away, but I don't believe it. I think the girl in the mirror took her. Now every time I look in a mirror, I'm afraid I'll see her too. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of something moving behind me, just out of sight. Sometimes I hear a whisper so soft I can barely make it out. I see you. I try not to look in mirrors anymore. But sometimes, I can't help myself. And every time I do, I wonder if this will be the time I see her face, staring back at me from the other side. So, the next time you walk down an empty hallway or hear a strange noise in your school, remember these stories. Sometimes, the scariest things aren't the ones you can see. They're the ones hiding just out of sight, waiting for you to notice them. If you made it this far, you're braver than most. But I have to ask, have you ever experienced something creepy at your school? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more true horror stories that will keep you up at night, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because I have plenty more nightmares to share. Until next time, sleep tight if you can.